Bonjour à toutes et tous, vous écoutez First Print, votre podcast comics préféré pour un nouveau numéro de notre émission SuperFriends. C'est dans ce podcast qu'on va à la rencontre des personnes qui font vivre la pop culture et la culture comics par leur travail. Et nous avons le plaisir de recevoir pour la 3e fois, je crois, dans ce podcast, mais c'est la 4e fois que j'ai le plaisir de l'interviewer, Tom King, le scénariste de beaucoup de comics qu'on voit publiés en France. Particulièrement, aujourd'hui, on va essayer de revenir un peu sur certains titres récents qui ont notamment connu du succès en France, à savoir Helen de Wyndhorn et Wonder Woman. Le générique va se lancer et on se retrouve en anglais, évidemment, avec Tom. So hello Tom, it's really nice to have you here in our podcast. I think it's the third time that you're here, but it's the first time that we really do an interview in face-to-face. So that's a very big honor for me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for all these years of support, and thank you to all your listeners for sticking by this. And thank you for that French introduction. I got like 50% of it. I took French for 9 years and can speak like 7 words of it. So I think I heard all 7 of them. So I got a little bit of it.
Okay,
I got that. Tom King is the writer of beaucoup.
Oh
books. Yeah, that sounds like my life. My life is very beaucoup. Yeah. So.
But maybe we can start by that, actually, because you're writing a lot of comics, and I was just wondering.
Less now though than I have in a long time.
Yeah, because you're also busy with the whole television and multimedia projects. But I was wondering, how is what's a typical day in the life of Tom King, in terms of writing?
I mean, I some people have different kinds of addictions. My addiction is to writing. I love it. I'm not happy when I'm not happy when I'm too many negatives in the sentence. I always want to write. I'm happy when I'm writing. I'm unhappy when I'm not writing. So I mean, I'm very religious about my schedule because I want to produce. I make a lot of mistakes, but I'm very religious about deadlines. I want to always hit deadlines and to keep going, because the thing about comics is that if you miss one comic, the next one's coming down the train. So you have to keep going. And so I generally write a story a week, and that can be both for television or for whatever, video games, movie, whatever I'm writing. But try to start something on Monday that I finish by Friday. And so generally on Monday I do a small, whatever the beginning is, because you're facing the blank page on Monday, so that's like the hardest thing, just to get started. So I write just a little bit, as long as I can write just a little bit on Monday, not 0, but a little bit. And then Tuesday through Thursday I write the rest of whatever I have, and I have to finish by Thursday night always. Like by Thursday night I have to be done, so on Friday I can edit it, and then Friday night I turn it in. So that's usually how. It usually takes me 4 days to write a comic, and so that gives me 1 day during the week to kind of, if the kids are sick, or if the dog needs more attention, or if I have to do something for the wife, for family stuff, I can have that flexibility. But yeah, that's generally my schedule.
But when you're saying like a one comic a week, is it like a one single issue comic a week?
Yeah, one single issue comic a week. Yeah. So I like Supergirl, this book that's going to be a movie. So that was 8 issues. So it took me 8 weeks to write.
And do you switch between projects when you're writing, or are you solely dedicated to one project at a time?
In the beginning, especially when I was on Batman was double ship, so it was really hard. And that was one of the reasons, because you had to keep feeding the artists, because there were different artists who were working on different arcs at the same time. So writing Batman was crazy. So I would write issue 15, then I would write issue 25, then I would write issue 8, then I would write issue, because I had to jump all over because all the artists had to be fed. And so then I was all over the place. But when COVID came, I was very productive in COVID. I just bore down and started writing. And so I got ahead of my deadlines, and I could do whole projects at once. So some things I wrote all at once. Then I wrote Human Target was all at once. Supergirl was all at once. Helen de Wyndhorn was all at once. Danger Street. But then lately, just because of all the TV and movie stuff, I've gotten off that schedule. And so I'm now just, now I basically, what deadline is right ahead of me, and I do that. Although recently I was able to write all the Mr. Miracle series and do that and take a big chunk of time to make sure I was just dedicated to that while I was working on it.
Okay, so you'll never stop writing, if I understand well.
Never, no. I feel guilty. I've been in Paris for a week working on on Mr. Miracle, and I'm not writing, and I feel guilty, even though I'm working every day, all day long. I just feel that if I'm not turning in something, I'm not creating something, I'm not doing something new.
Okay.
So I feel guilty. Yeah.
Don't feel guilty.
I do. I feel guilty. I'm sorry.
You
I should have been
to.
writing. I was just complaining in the cab. Like there are always more scripts to do. You know, you're only have so much time on this earth. You want to, I don't know, make your mark, keep writing.
So right now I'm just like getting in the way of you writing a comic book.
Yeah,
I should feel guilty too, because I know I won't get a comic from you because of that time we took to do an interview.
I'm never in Paris, so what you're really getting in the way of, like I want to wander the streets of Paris and listen to some beautiful music and look at this stuff and get inspired for the next thing, you know. Like,
but that was okay. So you said the right word, inspiration, because if you're always writing, when do you have the time also to find the inspiration to? Because I assume that you have also to have like some time to breathe, to get some rest also, and to get inspired again.
Yeah, I mean, that is something you always have to do if you're a creative person, is keep finding new things to be obsessed with, and new venues and new genres and new ways to sort of spark your interest and go outside of your comfort zone and challenge yourself and do that. So yeah, that's like another focus where I'll be like, I want to go down this track. And I mean, fortunately, I didn't come, some writers are, you know, they want to be writers since they're little kids, and then they study writing in college, and then they do writing for graduate school, and then they write their book. At the time, it seemed like a waste of my time. I took 10 years of my life, you know, I was in the CIA. And so I took those 10 years and I draw on them constantly. So I did time when I wasn't doing writing all the time. And also in that time I became a full-time, after CIA, I was a dad where I just lived at home and took care of my kids. So I have that experience too. So I call on that a lot, but yeah, I'm constantly looking for places to get inspired. Like some work of art was like, I love this. How can I make this something magical? How can I make this better? You know, what really sparks an interest in me, and why does it spark an interest in me, and who's interested in this, and sort of exploring that. I typically find inspirations are the things you're not paying attention to when you're like, oh, I can't read this. I can't read anything. All I can read is Conan. You know, I just want to read old comics about Conan the Barbarian. And you don't know why, you're just escaping there, and then you're like, wait a second, and that turns into Helen de Wyndhorn. You know, like it's when you try to escape into a place, you find the path back to writing. There's nothing I do, and my wife mocks me for this, where I'm not trying to think of a new idea. You know, if I'm ever relaxing and watching a TV show, it's because I think this TV show might give me a new idea. If I'm ever, you know, going out to a place or taking a trip, I was like, I'm looking for ideas everywhere I go all the time. Yeah. I read Jason Aaron said this, and I think it's so true. Like when you're a freelance comic writer, the last thought before you go to sleep is, you know, you're thinking about the next idea. The first thing you wake up, you're thinking about the next idea. You go to the bathroom, you're thinking about the next idea. You're always trying to think of it. Your brain never relaxes.
Is it hard to live with that?
No, there's so many things that are hard. I mean, people have jobs where they have to be accountants, or they have to be baristas, or they have to be teachers to horrible children. My job is to make up stories. It's not hard. No, it's not hard.
Well, let's talk about, because you mentioned Conan the Barbarian and Helen of Wyndhorn. What can you tell us about the origin of this project? And I guess it might be linked to Robert E. Howard's stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of things converging at once. The main thing, and we'll talk about this endlessly, so I apologize for bringing it up early, is Bilquis, who is just one of the genius artists who God put on this earth. And I had just done Supergirl, and she was finishing up, and I wrote her a note, and I said, I will do anything you want to do. If you want to, whatever character in DC, we'll do that. If you want to do an independent book, we'll do that. If you want to jump ship and go to Marvel, I'll figure it out. I don't know, whatever you want, I will write stories for you. And she said she wanted to do something independent. Her and Matias Lopez, who does the beautiful colors. And that's when that's when the separate inspiration. And she sent me a vision board of like what she wanted to draw, or what was on her mind. And it just happened to coincide with some things just by the coincidence. At that time, I was obsessed with two different sort of things. Like I said, it's these obsessions where you're retreating that you start to lean into. And I was reading a lot of old Conan comics, old Roy Thomas, Barry Windsor Smith kind of comics, John Buscema kind of comics, and loving them. And bizarrely enough, I was also reading Wuthering Heights, which is now a big movie in the theaters, but at the time, just for fun. And I was exploring these different, we talk about love everlasting, sort of these different versions of romance. And I was like, why is Gothic romance it was so popular at one point? Just like kind of fantasy romance is so popular right now. Gothic romance was so popular, and it was the same story over and over again of a woman who goes to a very strange house and discovers that there's a mystery there that leads them into a romantic sort of situation. And obviously the Bronte sisters are almost the founder of that genre, so I went back to the origin of it. So I was obsessed with Gothic romance and the Brontes and reading Conan, and she sent me this vision board which was full of old Alex Raymond art, old sort of 40s movie stars, this kind of very old school vibe with little fantasy elements in it. And I was like, okay, this is all adding up. So I need something that's kind of Robert Howard plus Alex Raymond plus Bronte. That became Helen of Wyndhorn.
So I get that maybe more the Bilquis that set the mood and
sure.
the graphic, the artistic direction of the project.
100%.
And you, is it something that happens a lot, that when you are really maybe committing to fulfill the vision of someone who is going to work with you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, to me, in everything I do, I'm gonna work on this, like I said, for 6 weeks for 6 issues. It took her 3.5 years to draw it. So should her vision lead or mine? I mean, what a horrible thing would be. I'd be like, no, needs to be what I want to do. She's spending such a bigger chunk of her life on it. I want her to be happy. If she's happy, she's gonna do better work, and she's also just a friend who's always been good to me, and I want her to have joy. I don't know. So her opinion at this point is much more important. I can always, as a writer, I'm not looking for blank spaces. I'm not looking for big wide highways. I want someone to put me in a box and be like, you have to do this, because then that's so much easier to come up with an idea or to think about what to do. If someone's like, I like this, I like this, I like this, and do this, then you have sort of walls. And once the walls are in place, it's easier to sort of build your house, It's that basic thing. So, yeah, I always start with my artist. What do you want to draw? What genre stimulates you? How do you work? Always, always, always.
And how do you settle the length of the project that you're going to write? Because are you thinking about the time that the artist will take to draw the full-length book? Are you sometimes it's just because the story just fits in 6 issue and nothing more? Yeah, how does it work?
Yeah, we started Helen without a publisher. I was like, I can sell it to whoever you want, but we didn't pre-sell it. I was like, let's do a few issues and then sell it after we. I knew once we saw her art, it would be the easiest thing to. Oh, sorry. Once we saw her art, it would be the easiest thing to sell ever. And I think I just didn't want her. I didn't want to do something that was too long. That would take too much of her time. And so I came up with 6 issues of 24, and it was always meant to be a first chapter, sort of. I was like, oh, this will be sort of, I usually read 12 issue stories. I was like, this a good first chapter would be 6. We had just done Supergirl 8 issues, and I was like, this story, it seems like a little shorter than Supergirl seemed good. So yeah, that's how I came up with 6 issues at 24 pages, and yeah, and also I wanted to pitch something to her that she wouldn't be stuck in forever. So that didn't seem like so much of a commitment.
And it really seems to be like a comic book compared to other of your works that is more puts the emphasis on the escapism without so much of a social or political message in the background. And I was wondering if you still think that we can have escapism in the 21st century.
I hope so. God, I hope so. Do you want to live in this century? I don't want to live here. I want to escape. It sucks out there, man. If you've turned on the news, my God.
Yeah, I know. But I had discussions with other writers that say that's like true escapism is like a mirage, that you can't have it. It's a dream.
That seems utterly absurd to me. You can't. I mean, even Samuel Beckett watched a lot of football. I don't know if if Beckett could be the most depressed person in the world and write depressing things and still turn it on and root for his team to score a goal, I think we can have a little escapism from our lives. I don't know. I think it's. I don't look at Helen de Wyndhorn as entirely escapist, but I look at art that is made. If you are focused on sort of everything that is always going on all the time, you will tire yourself out, and you won't have enough energy to fight for your own vision of what the world should be. It's impossible. If it's 24 hours bombarding you, you need to recharge. You need to unplug. You need to find a way to turn that off. And I'm able to do that. You know, maybe whatever it is, you find something old, some you look on TikTok. I don't care, but you don't have to look at it all the time. And if you can't find a space for yourself to relax, then you will overwhelm yourself and you'll become useless in your life. So I do think you need a place to shut off, and I do think there's art that serves that purpose, and that it's noble for people to provide that art, for sure.
There's one other theme in another theme in Helen de Wyndhorn, which is transmission, also legacy. Is it one of your obsession also, what you are going to give to that would be your children or other writers, some stuff to get inspiration from? Because it's not the first time that we also have this kind of themes of a transmission in your books.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, legacy is one of the ways we get to run away from death, right? That's one of the ways we can try to deny that we are human beings who will one day stop. We can say, oh, if we can leave something behind, if we can push the earth and it moves, that means, there's something more to us than just this endless blackness that awaits us. And so we kind of cling to it as we go forward. And it provides comfort. I mean, legacy is another form of escapism, to be perfectly honest. And sometimes I cling to that escapism and I think, oh, if I could just leave my mark, if I can create something beautiful, if I can make my children happy, then I don't know, maybe that will make life worth it.
Did I kill the mood?
No, I just want to, it's good to be on I can talk the deep stuff on the French podcast. It's perfect. It's great. No, but it's true. I think about this stuff all the time. Is any of this, I mean, nobody, I don't think Hemingway cares about his legacy anymore. He's gone, but to me, it seems very important to think about what people will think of you after you're dead, but it's not really, you're not going to care once you're dead. I don't know what the answer is. I don't think anyone knows. So I'll keep wrestling with it, because if you don't know the answer, that means you can write a story about it.
But maybe you care more about the thing that people will say about your work more than about yourself.
Do I care more about people saying about myself? No, I mean, I shouldn't. I mean, work can give you meaning. It's one of the ways you can achieve meaning, but it's not the only one. You have family, you have your day to day, you have your dog. It's one thing among many that can give you meaning.
But someone could also argue, because since you put your obsessions in your books, we could argue that each and every one of your books is a little part of yourself. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, in some sort of theoretical, philosophical way, but not in any realistic way. I'm still going to disappear when my blood stops pumping. Yeah. I don't get to look through Helen de Wyndhorn back at you. I'll be gone.
You don't know that.
I mean, that's like a wonderful poetic thing to say, that you can say, oh yes, I've put a little bit of myself in my books. I mean, and you sit around, you read Aristotle, and you're like, oh my God, Aristotle's been gone 2,500 years, and yet he's still inspiring me. He's not gone at all. He's sort of influenced everyone. But I don't know, Aristotle probably still thinks he's gone. So I don't know. It's a question for the ages. No, I do. You're probably looking at me. I can get utterly obsessed with that. If I need to make my mark, I need to do something that affects a lot of people, that gets what's in. I can be as obsessed with that as anyone else. But at the same time as I'm obsessed with it as anyone else, I can recognize how absurd and stupid it is. I'm like what Walt Whitman said. I contradict myself. I contain multitudes.
One of the other thing that is quite funny with your writing also is how you tend to have like some gimmicks for your characters, something they will repeat or something they will do constantly.
Yeah.
And Ellen is quite obsessed with cigarettes, and I was wondering if it had something to do with your personal history with cigarettes, maybe.
That's a great question. I never smoked. I don't smoke. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life, but both my parents smoked, so maybe that's something. They are both chain smokers, so I had them. In fact, if you look at my first comic that ever, set me on this path, it was classic how many American kids of my generation learned to get comics. My mom would buy a pack of cigarettes and then get me a comic book at the newsstand. So in that way, they're responsible. To me, Helen smoking is like just. It's symbolic of two things. Obviously, this is a comic that takes place in the 30s, and it gives you that sort of time period thing when it was much more acceptable. But it's also this idea that Helen thinks of herself at the beginning as a complete human being, as an adult, and it's a sign that her father kind of let her think of herself this way, in sort of way that he never cared for her as a child in the way he let her grow up a little too fast. And to me, that's what the smoking symbolizes, which is often symbolized. I'm a big fan of classic films, and smoking often symbolizes in classic films the sort of transition from innocence to to adulthood or to a wider, and the fact that Helen sort of thinks of herself as worldly, but she has experienced so little of the world, and so she cannot recognize that she's been sort of denied something. And that's the idea behind, to me, in the cigarettes in the book is that concept of she wants to be an adult, but she's not yet.
You mentioned before we already agreed that Bill Quist set the mood and the artistic direction for this book, but I was wondering because even if it's not per se an adventure and action book, there are a lot of sword and sorcery scenes,
sure,
which are great, by the way.
Beautiful.
And I was wondering, did you decide with Bill Quist what would these scenes be, or did you just write to her let's do something epic and we don't care about what it would be, just do a giant fish-like creature and that will be okay?
Well, I mean, she should get all the credit for it. I never met Bilkis till after this book had already been done. I never talked to her on the phone. Never did a Zoom call with her.
Never.
This was all literally. She sent me the boards. I said, "That sounds great. I have an idea." I think I sent her one paragraph on what the idea would be. She said, "Great," and then I sent her. I sent her all 6 issues. I said, "Here's the whole thing," and then she sent me the art back, never asked a question about a panel, never asked me anything about anything. My panel descriptions are famously very minimalistic. So I would be like, she fights a big fish monster, and then I knew Bilkis would draw the most gorgeous fish monster you've ever seen. But a lot of the world building you see is her very much, and she deserves all the credit for it. I mean, obviously it's based on sort of a Conan-esque world, but she elevated that to almost this kind of magical realism world. It's beyond what you sort of see in Conan, but yeah. But very minimal descriptions, but all the descriptions are in there, so how I always do it.
And is it always the case to have such a very efficient work relationship with an artist?
I mean, I've done
just send the script, get the art done, and okay, that's it. It was easy. It
was. I hate to say how easy it was. I should complain, but there are many comic book art. Most comic book writers come from an art background, and that seems weird. But even like Alan Moore, Grant Morrison, Scott Snyder, Steve Englehart, most comic book writers started out as artists and then became writers. You just forget Brian Bendis.
Yeah.
I didn't. I have no art. I have zero skills. I can't.
You got skills. We saw your signings on books.
Yes, I can do.
Your Batman saying "I'm sorry."
Yes, that's a sincere. That's me trying as hard as I can. I can't draw a straight line, which means that I never will tell an artist, "No, that's not right," or "This is not good," or "This is not right." I have full trust in my collaborators. I just once I've written the script, it's yours to turn into something beautiful, and that's kind of what we do. I mean, I'll look it over to make sure they don't get in trouble. Like, oh, you drew that thing. I think we'll get yelled at for that. That'd be the only thing I ever look at. But when you're working with people I've worked with people like Mitch Gerrits, people like Greg Smallwood or Gabriel Walta. Let them cook, as we say in America. Give them room to run. Yeah, I don't work with them because they know exactly what I want and they want to make it. I work with them because I want to see what they want to make and see them make it. I wouldn't hire myself to draw it. I want to hire them.
No, I wouldn't hire you to draw something.
Yes.
No offense, but
hey. I drew a page in Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle won the Eisner for best book, so I'm an Eisner winning artist.
I guess you are.
Yeah. So I won it before Bilkis as I rub it in her face. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have a very an appetence, let's say, for female characters? Because you wrote Helen de Wyndhorn. You're on a Wonder Woman book, which is now 30 issues long, and I was wondering if lately you've been more attracted to writing female characters.
No, I swear it's a coincidence, and I've noticed. I wrote Black Canary, Wonder Woman, Trinity. Black Canary, yeah. I've been on a row of Love Everlasting has a female protagonist. I don't know. I literally told my editors, I want to write boys. I want the next character to be a boy. I'm tired of. I've written so many women. Helen of Wyndhorn was made from the very beginning. I really loved Supergirl, and I had a feeling that it could be something big. It was not when it came out. It was a small book when it came out, but I just had a feeling. And I wanted to create a book that if you had read Supergirl, you could read this too. It was always meant to be a companion to that book. And in that way, I wrote it to have a lot of similarities so that if you were Supergirl, so I wrote it with a young female protagonist like Supergirl. I wrote it with a third person perspective like Supergirl. I wrote heavy captions like Supergirl, story like, but it's a different story, but it was very much meant to be, that wonderful feeling when you finish a book and you're like, I loved this. This is great. Is there anything else that is like it? I want to be like, yes, here's something that is just like it. Because if you read Supergirl, I don't know if Mr. Miracle is like the next step after that. It's a very different. But if you read Supergirl, Helen of Wyndhorn very much is the next step. So that's how that became a female protagonist. I was just trying to match it with Supergirl. A lot of the DC stuff is the reason I do. There's an editor at DC I love. Her name's Brittany Holzer. She's on so many of my books. She was on Mr. Miracle with me. We've been working together for 10 years. And I kind of just go where she goes. And just, I think, by how comics work, she has been assigned a lot more female comic characters to her editorialship. And I was like, who are you working with? Who can you give me? And so she's like, well, these are the characters. So she had Black Canary, she had Wonder Woman. So it happens to be I work with a female editor who's fantastic. And so that's the opportunities I have. So I write the opportunities. I don't like to pick my characters. I like other people to pick the characters for me. So that's how it goes. Yeah.
Because I was wondering how you got the gig for Wonder Woman. Because if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but at that point you weren't doing any more like a very long ongoing. You were more into more like 10, 12 issue maxi series.
I love that.
And
I have my regrets.
And one day, we got you back on a very very long ongoing. So how did you get that project?
Basically someone said this would be hard, and so I said yes because I'm an idiot. I was writing 12-issue series, 12-issue series, and so it was becoming very automatic, and I was loving it, and I was doing so well, and I was getting comfortable with it. And when you become comfortable as a writer, that's when you're in trouble. When you're like, oh, I know exactly how to do this, I know exactly how to do it next time, I'm going to give some tertiary characters some trauma, and I'll give them a way to solve it, and I'll make an emotional story. I was like, wonderful. And when you're making your 15th of those things, you're like, Tom's repeating himself. So someone's like, you need to get out of the box. You need to break some glass and do something different. And so they're like, how about an ongoing with a superhero that's never been not never, but has rarely been popular. And so I was like, yeah, that sounds like a super great challenge. And, someone puts a mountain in front of you, you want to climb over it. So someone put a mountain in front of me. I was like, yeah, let's climb.
So Wonder Woman was a challenge for you?
Yeah. It's a very challenging book. It's one of the hardest books I've ever had to write.
Why is that?
Oh, for many, many reasons. She's a tough character. I mean, I've written a lot of Batman. I've written some Superman, and I've written Wonder Woman's the toughest. Her continuity is very ill-defined. She's been restarted a lot. Her personality is very ill-defined. She's been written a lot of different ways. I mean, even her superpowers are very ill-defined. Can she fly? Can't she fly? Why does she have an invisible dead if she does fly? Is she bulletproof? Is she not? Does she have to use a brick? For a superhero who's been around as long as she has, she's so less developed in terms of personality and powers than Superman or Batman. And even her origin story is not written in sand to make a joke, but like there's just
in clay,
yeah. So and her personality isn't. I mean, there are many writers who thought they knew how to do Wonder Woman right and then did it wrong. And so yes, she's very challenging as a character.
But what you describe as a challenge, we could also see like many opportunities. So if everything's really ill-defined, you can just take whatever you want and make your version of Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's true. But the audience might want their version and want that. So you're very much risking when you're writing a 12 issues Heroes, when you're just kind of writing basically a graphic novel. It's supposed to be kind of, your vision of what a character is, and you're trying to make a complete vision of that. You can kind of put your forward for it. But when you're doing the mainstream Wonder Woman book, you're trying to say, hey, I know you fans love this character. Let me bring out what you love about this character. It's not just me being like, I know what she is and I'm going to give you the right version. I was like, that's stupid. I was like, I want to give you the version of this character that you love the most, but it's hard to determine what that is with Wonder Woman.
So what did you think? So you got the gig. The DC told you, so you're next on the Wonder Woman ongoing series. What was your brainstorming process to say, okay, I want to talk about this and I want to show this aspects of Wonder Woman?
It was two things. Number one was the sort of personality to differentiate herself from Batman and Superman. And to me, Superman and Batman are fantastic characters, but they're kind of the establishment. Superman's famously, he's the Boy Scout. He's the person who he enforces the status quo on a little bit. He's the ideal that we're all kind of striving towards. Batman is, for all his wonder, he's a detective, right? He's a cop. He enforces the law. He goes and captures criminals who are a cowardly lot. And then I was like, but Wonder Woman's rebellious in a way they're not. She's against the system in a way they're not. And so that part of me is just overthrowing the system of someone who said, that's why I gave her this catchphrase, "No, thank you." The idea that she won't take, she won't take what's given to her as face value, and she'll try to kind of break it rather than fix it, as I think Superman and Batman would do. That was very important to me, especially in our times now, which is the kind of the system feels a little broken and needs some rebels. And the other idea was I've loved John and Damian as kind of this next generation of superheroes, and very much admire that Grant had created this incredible character in Damian Wayne that had been along and then John Kent, and it always felt to me kind of bizarre that we have two of the three Trinity don't have children, but the third doesn't, to create this next generation, and that opportunity to give Wonder Woman a daughter and to contribute to the next Trinity, and also to have her have the idea of what it is to be a mother, and that's a different take. So it was those two things, and so I was like, I'm gonna have her have this little baby Lizzie, and who becomes Trinity, and I'm gonna emphasize sort of the rebelliousness of her nature, which really appealed to me.
Was it hard to convince DC to let Diana have a daughter? Because you went on that path before to try to establish a new status quo for a character which was called Batman and was trying to be wed with Catwoman, and it didn't go as planned.
No,
so you had experience in that kind. So was it any different?
It was a little hard.
Because we know that nowadays major publishing companies with superheroes don't like their status quo to be changed too much.
Yeah. I mean, this was, again, we had already done this twice, so at least it's like, and I knew as soon as they saw the idea that John and Damian had a little sister, they would love it. Like, you can just see that cartoon in your head. You can just see that appealing in 1,000 different little kids' books. Like, it's not fair to have two little, to have the next generation of DC Comics be two boys and not have a girl there. And the dynamic of two older brothers and a little sister, I think was just, I knew that would be too wonderful for them to resist. I think that was just, so I knew they would love it. And I kind of snuck it in. I did my first story as kind of a what if future, what if Wonder Woman had a daughter, and so kind of put her in there and see if people really responded to that. So like, look, the audience likes it, and I'm gonna add this to it. And I also literally wrote them out. I was like, this is Wonder Woman is a book that's never sold very well, and I was like, because there's not a lot of people pay attention to it because there's not big risks taken, you know. Like the biggest risk is she gets a leather jacket or something. And I was like, so we gotta, if we don't interrupt the status quo, nobody's gonna care about this book. I was like, we need to do something big, and this is a big thing we can do that helps everyone, and that they were convinced by it.
It's very striking, right from the first arc, that you're really also willing to explore, like I said, contrary to maybe Helen de Wyndhorn, like societal issues.
Yeah.
With Wonder Woman facing
Yeah.
basically alpha omega masculinity gang. Let's call it them, with the sovereign.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was also wondering if maybe because you were thinking that Wonder Woman was less exposed, that you could also take these thematics in such a frontal way in this book.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most subtle writing I've ever done, but yeah, I wanted to create, you know, what the opposite of Wonder Woman which was this, you know, this powerful young female rebel. So I made this old, very status quo king of the United States who was sort of this secret king and very much hated the rise of anything that challenged the established order of the 19th and 20th century. And to have her overthrow that was like the first theme of the book that I wanted to explore. And I made it. You're right. It's alpha and omega. It's black and white. I wanted to write superhero comics that was Doctor Doom and the Fantastic Four. That was Lex Luthor and Superman. That was here is the opposite. Here, the Wonder Woman again represents, you know, the ability to say no to the establishment. And here's a guy who represents everything the establishment is.
And also one thing that is quite striking is that going further into the series, like we know from the beginning that the Sovereign got defeated by Wonder Woman, but the actual maybe main villain would be the Matriarch.
Yeah.
So which is not an old man against change, which is like a female character, a woman. I was also wondering what led you to that idea. Because maybe you were thinking like, okay, so it's too cliche to just have like a woman facing an old man, because we've seen that a lot, and maybe I'll try also to change who the antagonist could be.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite a few factors that led up to sort of the matriarch. Number of, I don't know, 17. The fact I wanted to, I knew that Sovereign was going to be awful. Like I knew I was going to write an awful person who said awful things, and I knew he was going to narrate the whole thing, and I wanted to put my audience at ease and be like, at the end of this, he's going to get punched in the face. So I wanted to tell my audience just straight up. I was like, I know this character is terrible, and he's going to get his comeuppance. So that was part of why I said from the very beginning. And, you know, and leading up to the matriarch was, the Sovereign was never a physical threat. You're not going to have fun as a comic book writer watching her fight this 90-year-old man. I wanted to create someone, you know, that would just be awesome for her to fight with, because her greatest enemy is Cheetah, but her and Cheetah are kind of also best friends, you know, so it's never sort of been well matched as the two of them. And to create sort of someone who has the willpower of Wonder Woman and even that rebellious streak. Like I always like to create characters that are sort of evil reflections of them, of Wonder Woman. So that's what I started thinking about with the matriarch, like what sort of an evil princess would look like. And that's where that came from. And the idea of someone from inside the oppressed group turning on that group and becoming more powerful on the outside. I mean, I think we see that a lot in our politics, where like, or in our lives, where it's like, the person who should be the insider, the person who's experienced it, becomes almost the worse for it because they completely reject themselves along with everything. So that's kind of what matriarch represents.
Okay, it's also a story about truth and lies, because you're inventing the lasso of lies. I don't know if it's called like that.
Yeah, it is lasso of lies.
It has a very powerful meaning about like how the sovereign dictates his rules by the power of lies, which also has a ring to what's happening in your country right now and what has been happening in both our countries. Let's be honest, we've got also a rewriting of facts right now in France, and we have had that for many years or so. So it's not just the United States, but I guess you were also willing to really to explore the power of what words can be if they're used by the people in charge, and how you can dictate how the world is going to be just by choosing to say either the truth or to either lie to the public.
I mean, I don't think of this as inherently a political statement. I don't to say it's bad to lie to people. It's bad to have.
It shouldn't be.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be. Right?
Shouldn't
like
be,
that's not.
Right?
If sometimes I think people are like, oh, I hate the bad guy because he so resembles a political figure I like. I was like, that's on you. Like, this is a bad guy this would be a bad guy in any era, in any world. Like that's, if your political figure represents my bad guy, I'm sorry. But like the sovereign is not inherently political. It's bad to lie on both sides. It's that to me, he just represents just a horrible way to run anything. Is to impose lies on people, to deny your truth, to fool people into believing you're powerful when you're actually weak, to fool people to thinking you're smart when you're actually stupid. I can't stand any of that. I mean, I don't think most of us alive can. I want to live my life with my eyes open, and or else what's the point of it?
But you could say also that it's not like you're writing real people into comic book villains. It's more like real people have become comic book villains.
Yes, that's on them, not on me.
But I was just wondering if you had discussions with the editorial at DC Comics when you're putting something that could be interpreted as a real life message, if they're trying to maybe tone down or tell you notes like don't go that way. Maybe it might be too harsh, or we don't want to angry almost one part of our readership.
Sovereign was such a I've written characters that aren't cartoon characters. Sovereign's a cartoon character. He's silly bad. He's terrible. So I never had anybody being like, no, I never had any pushback from DC on any of it. None.
Okay, because it maybe you don't want to go that way, but it really seems from our French perspective that DC is more inclined to go into a political message than the opposite, than Marvel. And I was just wondering because we knew also at some point a few years back that it wasn't necessarily this way, that some publishers really wanted to go to have a very strong message about we are for diversity, we are for the publishing, and we stand for inclusivism, or this kind of good values we would say. And I was just wondering, if you sense some changes in the industry for the last 2 years.
It's a complicated situation that is beyond, I think, the bounds of this podcast that I could summarize here. But I can just say that the leadership of DC, Jim Lee and Marie Javins, are very supportive of their artists and their writers, and sort of helping us get that vision across. And I'm appreciative of that.
All right, thank you. And let's get back to a more light subject.
Sure.
Trinity. So, Lizzie.
Yeah.
So you did also the backups on the Wonder Woman series.
Yes,
which
back to the escapists we begin with.
Yeah, in a totally different tone, very humoristic, very hilarious at some point. I didn't know that you had such a sense for comedy, to be honest, because the majority of your books are not that humoristic. So how do you make a comic book funny?
Oh, thanks. How do I make a comic book funny?
Yeah. How do you write funny stories? Is it harder to write depressing stuff?
No, it's easier to write depressing. Yeah. No, comedy's hard. Drama's easy. You can always write 9 panels of someone staring out the window and it seems deep, but if you put a gag at the end, my God. I'm a comic book nerd. I love, I grew up on Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns and Mouse and all those books that are about sad boys being sad. And I loved them more than anything. But at the same time, I had a second love, which was comic strips. I loved Calvin and Hobbes. I loved Peanuts. I loved Bloom County. I loved even the ones people don't talk about anymore, like Hagar and, I don't know, there's like 1,000, like Foxtrot and, anyways, I could go on for all that. I was raised on those comics, and I always read them, and I still read them to this day. I enjoy them absolutely immensely. Far Side, when I want to relax, I'll sit back and read a bunch of, I think Charles Schultz is the greatest comic person of all time in the medium in any country, anywhere. And so I love humor in comics, and so I finally got to do something where I put humor in comics. There's been lots of, when I read Mr. Miracle, there are moments I think they're super funny and make me laugh. Scott, it cracks me up sometimes. Even there's funny, like Ruthie cracks me up in Supergirl. She says all sorts of things. And the climax of Supergirl is when she says, it's hard to lie to a horse, but you can get over it. I find that line to be funny. But yeah, no, it's harder to be funny than to not. But that book was such a joy to write. Whenever I was writing it, it was like taking a week off, because when you're writing, when I write Archie now, I love writing comedy. Because when you're writing, you're just having a blast. You're laughing at yourself, and you're like, I can't believe I just did that. Oh, this is great. Yeah, no, it's so much fun.
And especially that you can play with some different kind of humor. You've got just from the dialogues and from the situations, like and it is really funny when Damien and John are transformed into corgis. Let's say, for example. And do you have a kind of humor that you prefer between like a situational humor and just very jokes and dialogues?
I don't know. What are the kinds of humor? Is there? Give me the categories, and I'll tell you which ones I like.
Yeah, situational. So situation, slapstick, just.
I like them all, man.
Absurdity also.
Yeah, I'll take a Marx Brothers slapstick as absolutely amazing, but I'll also love to read like a freaking, I don't know, what's high intellectual comedy, like Steve Martin New Yorker article. What, I don't know, what's the. I like anything that can make me laugh on many levels. I like stand-up comedy. I like sketch comedy. My kids are sitcom addicts, as am I. I watch a lot of sitcoms. I enjoy Abbott and Costello. I enjoy freaking 30 Rock. I don't know. I like anything that makes me laugh. Yeah, there's no limit to me.
No limits.
Yeah, no. I'll take a good fart joke, and I'll take a good joke that's about freaking Anselm and Aquinas. I don't care.
I mentioned before the gimmicks of your writing, like the no thank you for Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And so we just went through an arc on which we are on an island with mice.
Yeah.
And with the mouse. The mouse.
Yes. Mouseman.
Mouseman. Yeah. Mouseman knows. Is it your like you just pushed the furthest you could with that story arc? Let's say like if people didn't like your when you did I Am Bane, I think it was Batman punching Bane and saying the same sentences in circle during the whole issue, and it was just like, so I'm just going to do the same thing in the whole story arc.
No, I mean that was that was a little Orwellian.
Yeah,
a push.
No, because it has a really profound meaning, which is the same about what we were discussing about lies and truth. It's just the same, like we can forge people's behavior and opinions just by manipulating their language, but we can just also take that at the first degree and just say, okay, so this is just Tom's doing his.
No, yeah,
is writing.
I had no thoughts to it was a dedication. I did try. I've tried to make my dialogue less repetitive and to get some of that stuff out, because I think I can rely on it way too much. But it was not meant to be a commentary on myself at all. It was just the idea that, like, because in comics sometimes you can present the extremes of things in order to highlight them. And the idea that you would control people so much that you would outlaw their language. I think any society that's under dictatorial control, obviously the first thing they do is they control language. You're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to post this, you're not allowed to say this. And the idea that someone would keep pushing that until, okay, you can't say that sentence, you can't say that sentence. Okay, here you're only allowed to say these two sentences, both of which are reference me, so that you're worshiping me at all times. That almost seems like a logical conclusion of where that's going. So I decided that would be I could push that too. And it was also, again, like I look for a challenge to myself, and I was like, can I write an entire language where the reader understands everything these people are saying? The words are all the same, but just from the expressions on their faces and how I bold the words and how I put it in context, that you're hearing, even though they're saying the same phrase over and over again, when she says mouse man knows, what she's actually saying is, ugh, I'm so annoyed with you. And when he says mice have ears, what he's actually saying is get out, like if I could do that as a challenge. So it was those two factors. Yeah.
I would love to see the scripts from these issues.
Well, they made me rewrite the first one. I mean, I did the first one. I did all mouse man knows, mice have ears, and they're like, Tom, you have to put some Wonder Woman talking in this. And I was like, no, I can do the whole thing. It's like a silent issue, and and they're like,
yeah, they were like, oh, crazy Tom is here.
Yeah, I pushed it because my first issue of Wonder Woman, I didn't put her until page 18, and so I was like, and every time I've started a new arc, and I just started new with Wonder Woman, I've done this thing where I don't put Wonder Woman until the very end, as kind of like I build the tension and then I give you the relief. So I was like, I'm going to build this tension, or I'm not going to let the reader have any except these two words, and they're going to be so annoyed by the end that when she comes in and she starts talking in a normal way, it's going to be such a relief to the reader. I just had this whole vision. They're like, no, you can't do that. So the politics they don't push back on, but that I couldn't do Mouse Man Knows for a whole issue.
And I guess also you had to just write complementary things for Daniel, because otherwise it would be lost.
Yeah, I had to tell him. Yeah, but Daniel immediately sort of understood what it was, and interpreted it perfectly. But then I what I really liked about that was the idea that like the state has different levels of where people are allowed to talk. So like some people can say like mice man knows, but they can use like and the, and so they can add a little bit to it. And then there's like another level where they can only talk in compliments of the leader. And there are 5 levels. So I designed this whole society based on what languages, until you get to Mouseman himself, who can say whatever he wants. And so I don't know, it was fun creating a new society based on language.
How long are you going to be on Wonder Woman? Do you already know?
I don't think much longer. I was going to do 100, but I'm not going to make it.
100?
I was going to, but I'm not going to make it. I think I'm going to be off pretty soon.
Okay. All right. If we just have 10 less.
Take your time, no problem.
No, but I also have a train to take.
Oh yeah, don't take your time. Take your train.
No, but no, because you've got so many books that I would like to talk about, and but
of course,
maybe let's just do a short about Animal Pound, which is going to be published in France.
Wonderful!
Yeah.
I love this book,
and they did a tremendous work on the book as an object.
Oh, it's so many words. I apologize to whoever translated it. That book is got a lot of words.
Yeah, so what can you tell us a little bit about this book that you were really willing to transform the animal form into something that will more speak to nowadays, and maybe just adjust it to the American political system, I'd say?
Yeah, I mean, the idea when Animal Farm was written by George Orwell in at the end of World War II, obviously the Soviet Empire had just teamed up with England to sort of have this victory, and communism was very much on the rise in England. And Orwell, who was a former fellow traveler who had sort of had this falling out because of his experience in Spain, wrote a book that was a warning that, yes, this seems like an answer for us, but it leads to basically to totalitarianism if you go down this path. And he did it with animals, being like, we'll start with utopia, but if we keep going this way, it ends in horror. And when I look at today's world, I'm not really worried about communism right now. I'm not saying communism was the worst thing. It was horrible but that's not a current worry. It seems to me totalitarian is coming from a different perspective at us now. So I wanted to write a new take on Animal Farm that was more for the threat of today and the threat of the utopia that people are offering that could lead again to the same results at the end of Animal Farm. So to me, it's a sequel or an updating or a commentary upon what Orwell did. And I love it. With art by Peter Krause, who's absolutely kills it and makes one of the most beautiful books of all time. And yeah, so it's a modern day fable, an allegory story about how the best intentions can lead to the worst outcomes.
And what's really struck me is like how you adapted like the system of big electors that you had in the United States with the weight of the dogs in the system, because you can let all the rabbits, so you have to and I really was it hard to find a clever way, let's say, to try just to explain with animals how this very very particular system works.
I mean, the whole thing was not an easy thing to. I mean, issue 3 is I think all of American history told through dogs and cats and how they take over a pound. I very much remember when I was sort of thinking about this idea, and the idea of like how small compromises that are necessary for building a society can leave vulnerabilities that let bad actors take over the system. And I wanted to do a metaphor for that, and I was thinking about that, and then the idea of this pound system, which a lot of societies are built on, where like, you know, in the metaphor here is, for people who haven't read the book, it's the dogs and the cats and the rabbits overthrow in a pound. They overthrow their leaders, and they have to form a society, and they say we should all have one vote and we should have equal votes, and the dogs are like, no, there's so many more cats than dogs. You would always tell us what to do. And the rabbits are small, and and very new, and they're kind of the minority. They represent kind of the oppressed population. And so the cats are like, well, we can't form the society without the dogs because you're big, and we would be torn apart. We can't have civil war. We have to have a society, so we have to find a compromise that works. And they realize that though they're different in number, they weigh about the same. So we'll do it by pounds. So the voting power will give them. So the people who weigh more will have more votes. And that's a similar compromise to what we did in America when we developed sort of our constitutional system, where we had to make a compromise with the slave states at the beginning of our constitution, where we had to give the South and rural areas more votes, or else they just wouldn't join the Union. And that turned out to be a bit of a problematic throughout in our history to have made that sort of compromise. It's not as pure a democracy as some places.
Do you think that Animal Pen could be a book that could be like used for history classes? It's cool.
I mean, I wrote it to be. I say this. Orwell is an incredible. I worship how good an author he is, but just because he was wonderful doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to do something he did again. So if you teach Orwell in classes, I hope you would teach his book. But that's an incredibly arrogant thing to say. So I don't want to say it, but I mean, everyone has ambitions. I'm not saying I can get to them, but I'm going to try. I have ambitions, though.
Yeah,
I have ambitions.
It's all right. Okay, so what can we hope for the future from you? Because you've been also busy on the television side, because we've got Lanterns right away that will be out on HBO Max. Or no, is it just HBO? I think it's just HBO for now. We've got also the animated
Mr.
Miracle project, which sounds amazing to have an animated series about Mr. Miracle based on your work and that you are writing. What can we expect from you in the future?
Yeah, I mean, for the past 10 years, I've done about 90% of comic books and 10% Hollywood. And now that has flipped. Now I do 10% comics and 90% Hollywood. And I don't know, it's crazy. I'm basically changing careers at my very old age, and I don't know if it's going to work or not. So we'll see. But I'm going to keep writing as best I can. Yeah, we have Supergirl is the first thing that comes out, based on my graphic novel, Supergirl. I haven't seen it. I hope it's spectacular. I hope it's fantastic. So we're focused now on just making sure I love that book, and I just think it's a gift of a book for comic book readers. So I'm trying to get that book out to as many people as possible. And then Lanterns comes after that, and then Lanterns comes after that. A thing I co-created with two other brilliant writers, Chris Mundy and Damon Lindelof, and then after that, I'm right now working on Mr. Miracle, which is just me. I'm show running it and writing every episode, and that's what I'm currently is taking up a lot of time. And then there's other projects and then I'm writing this Archie movie that's been announced, and Love Everlasting that you worked on as a movie at Sony, so we're working on that. And then there's just everything is Hollywood now. It's a new experience. Like I said, it's another mountain, so I'm gonna freaking climb it.
And speaking of Love Everlasting, that's a trick question, but I have to ask you, what can we expect? Can we expect something from Love Everlasting as far as the comics are concerned? Because you're halfway through.
Yeah.
So we got the 15 first issues, and we
Yeah.
know that it's just the first half.
Yeah. There's some good news and some bad news. I'll start with the good news. The good news is to sell it to the movies, I had to write the second half. So it's written. I mean, I should say it's plotted. It's plotted beat by beat, issue by issue. I have it all done. I know what the ending is. I know what everything is. I know the last words. I know it all. The bad news is I have to get Elsa on the same page to draw it. And that Elsa is very busy. She's writing for herself. She has wonderful projects. And so it's just a matter of finding, I would just love to, I want it. She's the co-creator. She's the heart and soul of this book. And so I'm just waiting for her to break free and to draw it.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Tom. It was really nice speaking with you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
And I hope we have the pleasure to speak for another time also.
I cannot wait to talk to you again. Thank you for all the wonderful questions.
Thank you. Et c'est ainsi que nous finissons ce podcast. Si ça vous a plu, n'hésitez pas à le partager surtout pour soutenir notre émission et aussi soutenir le travail des personnes qui y passent. Merci à toutes et tous de nous avoir écoutés. Puis on se dit à très bientôt pour nos prochaines émissions. Salut!